Hello, who's your fans, who's your haters, and everyone in between. This is the Crimson Coliseum Podcast. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about the Hoosiers win over Michigan State 47 to 10. In this game, I didn't get to watch most of the second half, so a lot of the stuff I'm doing from highlights and all that stuff. But we just, I remember, I think it was the Cover 3 podcast that was talking about this. They described this game as a boxing match where the big guy was like, come on, hit me in the face. Right to the, like, sticking his chin out, pointed, hit the guy, the smaller guy, and hit him in the face. Hit right in the chin. And the smaller guy does it as hard as he can. And the bigger guy, takes the hit, tastes his blood a little bit, and then just wails on him the rest of the game, rest of the fight. And that's what it felt like. Michigan State got out to a 10-point lead, which is Indiana's first deficit of the season and first time allowing 10 points in the first quarter, which I'm happy we got out of the way because I don't have to hear it anymore. I don't have to hear it anymore. So we got that out of the way. Great. And then Indiana just took care of business the rest of the way. So let's go with the player stats. Curtis Rourke, after missing last week, 19 of 29, 263 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think he's the second quarterback recently along with it's an Ohio State quarterback. I remember seeing the stat from the Big Ten Network and Big Ten football page. I think it was Justin Fields to have three or more passing touchdowns in his first three road Big Ten games. 'Cause I'm trying to remember which if it was either CJ Stroud or if it was Justin Fields, but I think it was Fields in like 2020. And even though he started out slow, he got back into it and really took care of business the rest of the way. Rushing the ball, it wasn't great. Justice Ellison, 9 carries, 32 yards, and Tyson Lawton, 6 rushes, 19 and a touchdown. Receiving wise, Keyshawn Williams, 6 receptions, 86 yards. Elijah Surratt, 4 receptions, 59 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Miles Price, 3 receptions, 41 yards, and a touchdown. I believe he had a touchdown too. I want to make absolutely sure because I thought he did. Yeah, 3 receptions, 42 yards, and a touchdown, along with 1 carry for 21 yards that could have been a touchdown, and 2 punt returns for 44 yards. Zach Horton got 1 reception, 17 yards, and a touchdown off a good play design, honestly. It was really good play design for him. And then Omar Cooper, 1 reception for 21 yards, along with 1 carry for 16 yards and a touchdown. And he just outworked everyone to do that, get that touchdown. Love to see it. Defensively, that's where Indiana really stepped up. You got Mikhail Kamara. Oh, not Mikhail. Why did I say Mikhail Kamara? Aiden Fisher, 9 tackles, 5 solo, half a tackle for loss, and a pass defended. Mikhail Kamara, 7 tackles, 4 solo, 2.5 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss. I'm going to get to him later. Sean Asbury, 6 tackles, 4 solo. Isaiah Jones, 5 tackles, 1 solo, half a sack, 1 tackle for loss. Jacob Magnum Farrar, 4 tackles, 3 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 forced fumble. I think the fumble was the backup quarterback, Tommy Schuster. I think he didn't even. I don't even JFR really forced the fumble much. The Schuster really just threw it and hit the back of the lineman. D'Angelo Pons, 4 tackles, 2 solo, half a tackle for loss, and 1 punt block, which led to a safety. Then Amari Farrell, 2 tackles, 2 interceptions, and also shout out freshman Elijah Hardy, adding on to his good season, 3 tackles, 3 solo, and 2 tackles for loss. And going back to Mikhail Kamara is the fifth player. It recorded the fifth game in IU history of someone recording four or more tackles. Well, not four more than 4 tackles for loss. Because it was not first, but the most. There have been two IU players with 5 tackles for loss. Van Waiters had 5 in a 1986 game against Michigan State. Damian Gregory also had 5 in 1997 against Michigan State. Chris Dielman had 4.5 tackles for loss in 2002 against William Mary. And Jamie Kilrew had 4.5 tackles for loss in 2007 against Iowa. So he's in, and I think Miguel Kamara should be in contention for the best defensive lineman in the Big Ten at least, and could be an All-American sleeper pick. Heading over to Michigan State stats, Aiden Childs, 16 to 24, 193 yards, a touchdown and two interceptions. And Tommy Schuster, 4 of 8 and 30 for 36 yards. Rushing the ball, it was not their day. Alante Brown was the leading rusher, and that's a receiver. Two rushes for 16 yards. Their best running backs, K'Ron Lynch Adams had 6 rushes for 10 yards, and Nate Carter had 8 rushes for 6 yards. Aiden Giles had 9 rushes for -2 yards. And why is that? Because Indiana had 15 tackles for loss and 7 sacks. And I tried to look into the IU record book and like see if like is there a like team stat for tackles for loss that we really did, and I can't really find it as well. There's like no like it's a lot of player stats with player records, which is nice and all, but like what like because I feel like this is a really big important like a really big game in terms of record books for that defense because just looking at the highlights, they were just going like Kamara was in the backfield almost every play. It felt like um so it just is what it is. If anyone else could figure it out and about that team stat stuff, that'd be really great. Receiving wise, Nick Marsh led the way, 5 receptions, 76 yards, and a touchdown. He did really good in the first 2 drives. Had a couple really good catches, and then Azia Johnson, 4 receptions, 48 yards, the second best receiver. Defensively, Jalen Thompson, 6 tackles, 5 solo, 1 pass defended. Nikkei Martinez, 5 tackles, 3 solo. Angelo Gross had 4 tackles, 2 solo, 1 tackle for loss. And a guy that was actually very big in this game that left early, Charles Brantley, had 2 passes defended in those first 2 drives. And if he doesn't get hurt, this game might be a little bit different, in my opinion. It sucks with injuries. It really sucks with injuries, though. Team stat wise, Indiana had 61 plays, 29 passing, 32 rushing for 385 yards, 263 passing, 122 rushing. Was 2 of 10 on third down. We'll go a little bit later. At 2 of 2 on fourth down, and they had 4 penalties for 35 yards. For Michigan State, 64 plays, 32 passing, 32 rushing, 193 yards, 229 passing, -36 rushing. And I think I did look into this. Um, that might be a record for Indiana. Ah, trying to get back to it because I had it here. Of course, there's so much, but I think that is a new record for least amount of yards given up in a game, rushing yard wise. Oh, no, that's return touchdown. That's opponent. 1 second, I'm still looking for it. There we go. Total defensive. So yeah, the fewest rushing yards allowed was a -32 against William and Mary in 2002, and we broke that record because we got -30. I believe we got -36. This is what ESPN's saying. I don't know if it's different. I don't know if they're given. It could be like -24 because I've seen people say it was -24 rushing yards. They didn't count the blocked punt, I think, maybe. But the ESPN's telling me -36, and if that's it, that's the record. They were 5 of 15 on third down and 1 of 5 on fourth down. And some pros and cons for this game. The offense after the first quarter was absolutely immaculate. Defensively, after the first 2 drives was great. 123 yards allowed in their first 2 drives, and 82 in the last 10 for Michigan State. Obviously, the 7 sacks, 15 tackles for loss were fantastic. 47 unanswered points, I believe, is a season high this year because we've gotten 42 unanswered twice, once against Nebraska, once against Western Illinois. But like that game, it was like the Western Illinois field goal basically cut the runs in half. But 47 unanswered, I believe is a record high. So, and they had 51 yards lost in sacks. So if you take the sack adjusted yards out, it's 15. And one thing I really liked was the play creativity from Shanahan. A couple of end arounds that one resulted in a touchdown, and the other one nearly did. If uh, if Price keeps his foot up, he could have had 2 touchdowns on the day and 2 interceptions for the day, which goes up to 7 interceptions post bye week in 3 games, which is absolutely ridiculous. Farrell's had two, Pons has had two, Asbury, I think it was Isaiah, I think it was Isaiah Jones had one in that Nebraska game, and then Jameer Johnson had one. But this defense has been humming. I'm gonna make sure on that last because I think it was, yeah, I think it was a Jones that got it. It was either Isaiah or Elijah. But doing this on ESPN, it may not be the because it was the final interception. Yeah, Elijah Hardy. Not why did I say Elijah Jones? Elijah Hardy got the second interception there. But the cons, first quarter was not great, and I mentioned that earlier. And third down offense was and I think a part of that was that slow start. And its slow starts have been. We got a new quarterback back in, Rourke's back in, so I kind of understand it. And with the thumb, he was just feeling it out. I think he'll be ready for the Michigan game, so I think we're great there. And just for some context to what I was saying earlier about the first couple drives and later on, the first 4 drives of the game, Indiana's first two and Michigan State's first two. Indiana had 10 total yards. Michigan State had 123. The last 20 drives, so the last 10 drives for each team, Indiana had 375 total yards. Michigan State had 82. Yeah, this team has been great. My players of the game, offensively, Curtis Rourke. Defensively, I have a tie right now for Amari Farrell and Mikhail Kamara. And special teams is Nicholas Radicic. 6 for 6 with extra points and a field goal from 29 yards. And now Radicic holds the school record for the most extra points of the season with, I believe, 57. And he passes Mitch Elwald, who did it, I believe, in 2013. So that's all that. This was a fantastic game. We got Michigan next week. I got some new people for that preview. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, share on all platforms. I'm going to ask you, how did you feel about this big Hoosier win?